This is How to Drink, the show I'm making cocktails and how to drink them. And today I'm going to taste literally all of these rums. All of them. So the first question is, what is rum? What is it? Like, how is it made? How is rum made? Rum is a distilled spirit made from a fermented mash that is derived in one way or another from sugarcane. So if you take the product of a harvest of sugarcane and somehow ferment that into an alcoholic mash, basically sugar wine, and then throw that into a still, what comes out is rum, okay? That is a super simplification of what is rum, because really, rum has got to be the most varied and diverse spirit on earth. The number of things that fit under the umbrella of rum that taste absolutely nothing like each other and still are rum is tremendous, right? And part of that is because rum has a lot of different traditions of production. So I said that rum is made from sugarcane, but not necessarily like sugarcane, like pressed sugarcane. That's actually one very specific kind of rum. The vast majority of rum is made from molasses, and molasses has a lot of different characters. Not all molasses are the same. There's different levels of refinement of molasses, and maybe you have some sugarcane with your molasses in your rum. Maybe you use a pot still, maybe you use a column still, maybe you use a coffee still, or some variation. And then there's so many various ways to configure those stills, and all of these factors have a huge effect on the product that comes out of that still. And that's before we even get into aging and the differences between aging in warm tropical climates versus aging in like Scotland with Scotch, you know. And so what I really want to get at first and foremost is that rum is broadly categorized by rum novices and the buying public at large, who are not rum aficionados, as being light and dark. And then some people are also aware that there's spiced rum. So there's light and dark and then spiced rum. We'll talk about spiced rum later and why you shouldn't buy it ever. But light and dark is how people typically talk about rums. Rum is extremely diverse, and breaking it down into light and dark is a huge mistake. I guess there's this idea that, well, the darker spirit is older. Well, that's not really true, actually, because a lot of rums are filtered over charcoal, so some old spirits are perfectly clear, and some very young spirits are very dark because they add coloring to them, or molasses or something like that. So that doesn't really help you there. And then the thing that really, I think, has the most effect on the quality of that rum, its nation of origin and the traditions of rum distillation that are used there, doesn't even factor into its lightness or its darkness. It's a very convenient way for Bacardi to describe their personal product line, and since they dominate all of the liquor stores in America, I suppose in that regard, buying light or dark rum is a useful way to describe rum, but in no real sense of the word is that a useful way to describe rum. So where does rum come from? Who invented it? Well, rum was probably, invented, as in first discovered, by multiple people in multiple places around the earth at more or less the same time, and that's roughly the early 1600s. There is a spirit from Indonesia called Batavia Arak, not to be confused with Arak, which is a fortified wine from the Middle East that has aniseed in it. It's unrelated to Batavia Arak. Batavia Arak is a distilled spirit from sugarcane, but they also, in part of their fermentation mash, include a locally produced red rice, which kind of makes it not exclusively rum, but man, is it close to rum when you look at what goes into it. And it was super popular in the early 1600s. We find the first evidence of industrial scale purchase records around 1630. The Dutch loved it. They named it Batavia, but of course it's an Indonesian and actually Chinese spirit. Indonesia acquired distillation technology from China. And we get into the origins of distillation. So it's long been held that there's not really evidence of industrial scale distillation prior to the early 1600s. There were alembics, alchemists making small amounts of aquavitae for their kings and stuff like that, aqua regia, the water of kings. But that is a very Western-centric view of the world and of history, and while that may remain kind of true for Western history, there is a lot of evidence that's sort of coming to light now, which might make this video very dated very quickly, that there are traditions of distillation coming out of China that go way, way, way back before then, that spread around that region of the Pacific and Indian Ocean. I don't have all that information at my fingertips. I'm just going to say that it is accepted dogma that there was not really industrial scale distillation prior to the early, mid 1500s, right? In the West. And so the earliest records of sale to the English, which means, they're buying like shiploads of the stuff to bring back with them somewhere. Industrial scale purchase about 1630, which is actually a little bit later than rum from the Caribbean, which I'm coming to in a second. So I just want to pause here to say that Batavia rack, vital ingredient in early 1600s, mid 1600s punch. And punch isn't just a mix of spirits, it's a pretty specific thing. It involves spirit, some kind of an acid, some kind of a tannin, usually tea, usually oleosaccharum, a lot of nutmeg, and it was an aristocratic thing. I mean, if you look at like how much did the punch at the party cost, it's like 10 dudes' wages for the year or something of the common man. It's ridiculous. Like it's just basically like a bathtub full of Cristal. That's what you should imagine the aristocracy of the 1600s being like, just like ridiculous wooden teeth fops swimming in the most expensive champagne known to man. And that's why we cut off their fucking heads. It was great. Oh, the reason I talk about Iraq. Batavia rack, I have often read and I've often heard referred to as proto-rum or early rum. It's more like a cousin to rum. They sort of evolve around the same time, it seems. I could be mistaken on that. It might come to light that Indonesian and Chinese distillation and Batavia rack traditions go way back before then. The story of rum, as far as I can tell, does actually begin in the Caribbean. It's a pretty dark and depressing and sad history. That there were colonial plantations in the Caribbean, and they were populated by people, slaves, producing sugarcane. The sugarcane is refined into sugar. In the process of that, you create lots of molasses, which at this time was considered basically an industrial waste product. The very wise and industrious people who were unfortunately in bondage discovered that you could ferment that into alcohol and then distilled it actually on their own. And then white people stole that from them too. And so that was rum. So very dark, bloody, and brutal fucking history. Kind of legend holds that the first place that this happened was the island of Nevis. I have no evidence at hand to say that that's not where it happened, but with a lot of these things, I'm sure various places all kind of claim to have been the birthplace of rum. Rum was, in the early American colonies, the most popular spirit by far. But in 1664, the first rum distillery in North America, in New England, opened on Staten Island, of all places. And we drank a lot of it. And then the Sugar Acts pissed off all these guys who were getting rich on the rum, and then they threw a little revolution. But in the meantime, whiskey kind of overtook rum as the American preferred spirit. And Applejack. Applejack was super popular too. I don't remember, there's like there's a curve to all this. At one point, Applejack was the most popular distilled spirit in America. At one point it was rum, and at one point it was whiskey. They all kind of took their turn and traded places. I could go on and on and on about the history of rum, but then this would be a feature-length documentary, and we don't want that. Unless you do, in which case we should have a Kickstarter or something. But no, I'm not even the guy to do it. This guy Wayne Curtis wrote a book called And a Bottle of Rum, which details the history of rum and its politics and its place in society and culture at large very, very well. If you are interested in knowing more about this, the history of rum, I encourage you to pick up a copy of And a Bottle of Rum by Wayne Curtis. What I want to talk today about is the practical application and use of rum. And for that, I actually lean on another book. I've talked about this book a bunch of times on the show, the Smuggler's Cove book by Martin Cate with Rebecca Cate. I always say Martin and Rebecca Cate, but it's actually credited Martin Cate with Rebecca Cate, smaller. I wonder how that, went for him. I would have gotten in trouble there, but. No, I've talked about this book a bunch of times on the show. Smuggler's Cove, Exotic Cocktails, Rum, and the Cult of Tiki, Martin Cate. It's the name for the bar that they run out in San Francisco, Smuggler's Cove. I went there on my honeymoon. What a phenomenal bar it is. If you're there, you should go. What a great, wonderful, magic place. There is an entire chapter in here about understanding rum. it is phenomenal. It's worth the price of admission alone, and I will be leaning on that pretty heavily for what I'm about to do in organizing some rums and drinking them, but I'm not going to plagiarize his book and ruin the sales of it. If you want the whole story and how to use his system, I encourage you to buy the book. I'm not just going to read it out verbatim. That would be ridiculous. They use an ingenious system where he broke down rums into a bunch of types that are actually useful, not light and dark, numbered them, or at least numbered the ones that show up the most in cocktails, that are most useful in cocktails, and then applies those numbers to various cocktails in the book. So you can say, well, let's make this drink with a rum from number 4. You go to number 4, and there's a whole bunch of rums there that would be applicable in that drink. All slightly different, but certainly all will work. Oh, and one thing that he and I both agree on is that you should not be spending your money on spiced rum. If you want spiced rum, buy rum you like and put spices you like in the rum you like, and it'll be much better than any spiced rum you can buy. You don't know what spices they're putting in there, and really, for use in cocktails, we are adding the spices to the cocktails. If it needs cinnamon, we'll put cinnamon syrup in it. If it needs pimento or allspice and pimento are interchangeable apparently, we'll put an allspice dram in there. In cocktails, you don't want to have ingredients that you have no control over. With a spiced rum, you have no real control over that for the most part. You're not in control of how spicy it is or what spices it is. So you want to always go back as much as possible to base ingredients so that you can combine them on the fly and then dial it into your preference. So I just don't buy spiced rums. It's probably an inferior product that you don't need. The only thing I want to say about that too, that I've noticed from a few comments, and maybe only a handful, but I assume that's representative of a larger part of the audience, is that spiced rum and dark rum are not interchangeable terms. I don't know if that's a widespread thing that some people think, or if it's just a handful of people, and I think it's more people than it actually is. I don't know. But in case there's any confusion about that, dark rum, first off, is not a useful term anyway, but a rum that is brown or dark in color is not a spiced rum. They're different things. To make a spiced rum, you literally have to add spices to rum, and I suppose if you clarified it or something, you could have a perfectly clear spiced rum. So we're gonna talk about tasting some rum. I've got some Glencarin glasses. I've got 4 of them. So I can only have 4 glasses filled at a time, and I'm going to probably taste a lot more than 4 glasses of rum, so we'll probably rinse those out a couple of times. The only reason I would like to have them have more than 1 glass have rum in it is if I need to go back and forth on something. But we're not going to get super detailed. I just want to demonstrate the different characters of different kinds of rum and what makes them different in the glass. I've got these crackers and this decanter of water from Goodwill. Lovely decanter that the Mrs. How to Drink picked up for me. Thank you so much. $2. You guys got to get over to Goodwill. It's a great deal. This is just palate cleanser because I had coffee this morning and I'm going to be tasting all these rums. So between them, maybe I'll have some of this and maybe I'll make it into camera or not. But in case you're wondering if my palate was polluted in these tasting notes, we're doing our best. I mean, nobody's perfect. Certainly me. I'm far from perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start with blended aged rums. Useful category, broad category. It's anything that is a blend of distillates, a blend of sugarcane and molasses, a blend of ages, a blend of even local regional rums or rums from multiple regions blended together. It's like the idea though is that they all kind of fit into the same category in the same way that like blended scotches do, because by blending things you kind of average them out, right? Okay, and what I got through here is I got a Plantation 5-year, great, good stuff. I've got the Appleton Estate 12-year rare blend, and I've got an Eldorado 8. This is from Guyana, this is from Barbados, but I think also from other places if I'm not mistaken. No, I think it's Barbados. And this is Jamaican, and they're gonna have really different characteristics. We're not gonna do extensive tasting notes on these, but we're gonna do some tasting notes. We're gonna start here with the Plantation. And then I'm supposed to hold it here. Looking at this regard. Some legs there. Doesn't really matter actually, according to Martin Cate. One thing he did say is that if you look at it at an angle and look where the rum meets the glass, apparently a green tinge is an indicator of age. I have no idea what I'm looking for. I'm not him. I mean, he might be even pulling your leg in that one. That sounds wild to me. I hope that's real. Yeah, definitely. You get some mild toast of sugar, like toasted cooking sugars a little bit, but mild. Mild. Okay, let's just get a taste. Oh, that's lovely. I get a lot of what I would call sherry notes, and that sort of makes sense, but not strong sherry notes, just mildly sweet raisins and grapes. And that's equally balanced for me with a mild sweetness. I would say this is a very nice rum that is not overpowering. It's a pretty unassuming rum. I mean, it's a great sipping rum, but it's wonderful for mixing as well because it's not going to take over a drink. It just is there, and it's pleasant, and it's very, very nice. Let's move on to the El Dorado. This is a Guyana rum. This is called the Demerara style rum. It's 8 years old. Where is it? How is it distilled? Does it say? Doesn't fucking say. Doesn't fucking matter. Put it into the glass. Oh, the thing to know about this, I just wanted to go back to that really quickly, the French style thing. So in France with cognac and everything like that, there's a tradition of dosage and fining. So they import all of that to their rum. So there is a very small amount of sugar added to plantation rums after they're done distilling. It's sort of like a pinch of salt on a great meal. It actually helps accentuate other flavors. It's not to say that this is a sweetened rum. I mean, we're talking about small dosage. So this is onto the El Dorado from Guyana. Cask aged for 8 years. Darker in color, which, you know, as an indicator of age, not bad because this is 5, this is 8. Okay, sure. Could be whatever, it might be artificial, I don't think it is. I get butterscotch and like sugar, brown sugar right away. Very butterscotchy to me. Yeah, mostly butterscotch. I like that very much. Do I get the green thing? I don't think so. I don't think we're gonna see that green thing. I swear to God, I don't got the eyes for that if that's real. That is just mellow caramel, brown sugar, buttery, and now again, a little bit of that just a touch of that raisiny thing, but less than this. Overall, I would say this is a warmer, more mellow, more buttery, sweeter rum than this. Okay, I'm gonna have a sip of water here. This is the Appleton Estate 12-year rare blend. That's a heavy pour. It was more than I needed for our purposes. Okay. Again, about the same, maybe darker. I'll save this for last because it's a Jamaican rum, and Jamaican rums are kind of known for funk, which can be kind of a palate mangler, right? And this one has kind of a strong, that's boozy smelling. Definitely get, there's some like grassy, foresty, vegetal smells in there, but not much. I mean, it's faint. It's strongly of like acetone and alcohol. Let's just like warm bread, like ginger snap cookies almost, like bread and mild buttery ginger snappy cookies. This is a very unfunky Jamaican rum. Yeah, that is like bread and butter and sweet caramel. More brown sugar, baking, yeah. And so these are all pretty similar. This one is maybe the most different. I would say that these are interchangeable in cocktails, so the Martin Cate organizational system is correct. Let us move on to the next set of rums. So we're gonna try an Angostura 1919. This is a column still aged rum from Angostura Bitters Company. I mean, Angostura makes beautiful rums. This is from Trinidad and Tobago. It is a molasses rum, if I'm not mistaken. Notes are gonna correct. And it's a aged rum from column still. I don't know what else to tell you. Let's find out. Baking notes, sweet molasses. Oh, that's much crisper. That is much brighter, much crisper, grassy almost. Almost. I mean, there's still a healthy dose of that sugary sweetness. It might be there might be something in there. Let me taste that again before I name it. A little peppery. a little bit peppery. Definitely, you know, these are bassy. This is a little bit more trebly, without a doubt. Still a lot of that baking spice. There is a slight aftertaste in this one. Maybe it needs a little bit more oak, honestly, because I do know they have an older expression that I just wasn't able to source. Okay, so we're gonna move on to black blended rum. So Martin Cate, I'm gonna reveal one of his little quirks. He says that black rum is the only color distinction of a rum that where the defining characteristic of the rum is the color, so we can call it black. It is black because it is artificially colored and an imitation of an aged rum. This is Gosling's Black Seal 80 proof Bermuda rum. They do make a overproof of this. It seemed kind of silly for our purposes here. This falls into a category of rums that are artificially simulating age. And that is sometimes useful, and it's good to know which ones are those rums, which is why Martin Cate's system covers it. Let's give the fake aged rum a taste. Not useless, not garbage, just made different. It's really sweet. There's a lot. I think there's got to be sugar added to that. And by the way, broadly speaking, English tradition rums are going to be molasses and pot still based. French tradition rums are going to be sugarcane, syrup, and I think column still, but certainly pot still makes it in there as well. And so those would be, I mean, French versus English, English being Jamaican as well. And so think about who was the colonizing force in play there. Anyway, so back to this. This is sweet, sweet rum. Martin Cate says that the legs don't really make any difference in rum. Don't look for them. It has more to do with alcohol interacting with the air than it has to do with anything about what's in there. Very, very brown sugar. I mean, just smells like a glass of brown sugar almost. That is sweet. I mean, it tastes like I'm making bread and I'm eating the batter or something. There's like a lot of brown sugar in that. It's good, it is tasty, but there's sugar there. And some people believe that the sugar is what causes a hangover. So, I mean, it certainly doesn't make me feel great. It is an inflammatory agent, you know, if you want to be concerned about those kinds of things. A lot of people are really worried about inflammation these days. They get into like, you know, all kinds of weird shit, whatever. Let's get into some overproof, right? Let's do that. Okay, so this is 11 Heart & Sons rum, single estate distillery, overproof 151. Sure, Bacardi stopped making 151, but a lot of other people still have it on the market. The other thing you gotta know too, right? Like, this is just distillation in general. It's not like, oh man, they distilled it all the way up to 151. It's about, this is product. You take your product and you cut it with water to sell more product for more money. So you distill to almost pure alcohol and then you add water to bring it down to the proof that you want to sell it at. So it's not like, you know, you have to like, whoa, we gotta ramp up to 151. You cut down to 151 from where you actually distill at. Anyway, this is 151. Dark, right? That's some dark stuff. This is a Demerara style rum. And what I think is gonna be instructive here is we're gonna put this one up against my other overproof, Wray and Nephew, white. This is so let's just talk about that real quickly. These are two different categories. This is Lemon Heart 151. This is Wray and Nephew 151. Now this is a Jamaican style rum that is unaged from a pot still, brand new, young rum, a blended black rum that is overproof. The colors are obviously very different, but the nation of origin is very different too. This is, if I'm not mistaken, a Guyana style rum. Product of Guyana, yeah. So this is a Guyana rum, this is a Jamaica rum. This is an English style, this is a French style, right? Okay, so, I mean, if you're looking at these based on color, you might say that this will have no character because it is white, and this will have a lot of character because it is dark. Let's see if that holds true. Let's re-taste this. Let's taste the Lemon Heart now. Butter, I mean, that smells like butterscotch. That's incredible. That smells like a Werther's Original melted in the glass. Ooh, that's spicy. I forgot that's 151. So it's tart, actually. It almost like puckers your mouth. It's got, actually, I mean, it's called Lemon Heart. I wasn't expecting it to taste almost lemony, but it does have a little lemoniness to it. And it's on fire because, you know, it's high proof spirit, but ignoring that, because that's not really the taste, that's an experiential thing. Like when we taste spirits, the experience of your body rejecting it and saying, that's poison, get that out of your mouth, is not really part of the tasting. You can note that as a part of the experience, but that's not what it tastes like. Your taste is a different thing. Like butter, like tartness, it's slightly tart, like a plain yogurt, actually, if I may, because it has that dairy quality to it. So my brain's there, like it's buttery, dairy, tart, like plain unsweetened yogurt almost, that gives way over time to demerara, brown sugar, toasted sugar, baking sweetness. Now, let's taste this Wray and Nephew, which we've already given away the game. This is one of the most characterful rums known to man, I think. And yet, it's an unaged, totally clear, almost all ethanol, because it's 151 proof, so it's 75% or so ethanol, rum. There we go for a day. So the smell is bananas. I don't mean that as an expression. I mean, it smells like bananas. It smells like hot, stinking bananas kind of moldering on a dock somewhere. I love it. And it is sweet to the nose. That's good stuff. It has such a smooth mouthfeel and texture, and almost no taste immediately. Almost no fire either, which is wonderful. It doesn't like attack you. And then as you swallow, as it slides down your throat and it aerates a little bit, you start getting some of that really banana-y. I mean, it tastes like black banana peels that are just like crawling with fruit flies. Except you wouldn't eat that because that's fucking gross. But here, in a drink, it's like, you know, it's kind of cool. That's neat. You can use that. That is a powerful spice in your arsenal when you're crafting cocktails. A quarter ounce of this, a half an ounce of this. Yes, of course, you're kicking up proof, but you're throwing a lot of flavor into a drink that might otherwise not have that. And it's a flavor that lands, you know, and this is something I think about when I'm making cocktails. Oh, that comes in late. Mouthfeel, texture, slow, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, bananas. So if you've got a cocktail that you're working on and it's all these flavors that come in at once, you can put it in something like this, where the esters in it take time to develop on your palate and it reveals itself over time, and now you've got another note that comes later in that cocktail's evolution. And that's how you build a cocktail with a long evolution. And that, to me, is what I always seek in a cocktail. When I say a cocktail is objectively good, because flavor and taste is subjective, I can't speak to what tastes good, but I can say that this is a well-crafted cocktail because it has a long evolution. To me, that's one of my, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, like fruit. I mean, that is like fruit, little bit of sugar, not super sugary, not super molassesy. You know what you might get in there a little bit is the iron content of the molasses. It might have a slightly metallic taste in the way that kind of honey does, actually. Honey has a slightly metallic taste where it activates on the sides of my tongue. It's just like, for me, it's an experiential thing. And then it gives way to more of what we call banana funk, rum funk, and slight amounts of sweetness. Okay, and I think that that's really instructive when we talk about, to me, these two bottles typify what a difference tradition and distillation, country of origin can have, because these are both about 75% ethanol. So there's only 25% left in the bottle to really play with as far as flavors go. And look at what a difference you have there, right? I love that. That to me is super cool. One more Jamaican rum I want to test, which is my beloved Smith & Cross. This is a fresh bottle. I got 4 glasses left, and there are 4 more rums after this that I want to taste, and they're drying, so we're just gonna do this one from the bottle. So this is Smith & Cross. This is a Jamaican rum. It's a traditional style rum. David Wondrich was involved in helping them develop it. So this is pure pot still, all molasses, pot still and molasses, what's called Navy strength. You get, one more time, man. You get a lot of butterscotch, caramel, and sort of vegetation, plant life, green things on the nose. That is delicious. It is like just the right balance of sweet butterscotch notes and funky banana notes. And let's go again. That's another one of those great ones where you can use a little bit of it, throw a lot of flavor into a drink. It's just a lot of dancing, sweet caramel butterscotch, maybe a touch of brown sugar kind of thing, with this funky Jamaican rum banana. Less so than this, to be frank. This is a funkier rum, if I'm honest. This is a funkier rum than this to me today. Tomorrow I might feel different. I don't know, you know, like taste is subjective. It changes by what you ate, what you drank, and who you are today. Moving on, we want to do now a glass of water. I love the sound this goddamn thing makes. Sounds like I'm unsheathing a sword. So these are all fresh cane juice rums. I've got basically two varieties. I got Rum JM and I've got Rum Barbancourt. Rum JM is from Martinique. It is a Rum Agricole, which is a mark of, I forget what the word is for that, but it's like a special thing. It means it's single estate, single location. It's kind of like Bottle and Bond, but not really the same thing. It's a French rum thing. Barbancourt is Haitian, also rum French style, but very, very different, I think you will find. We're gonna pour all four of these and taste them in a row. So this is the Rum JM VSOP. Now, if you were to make a drink called a tea punch, you would want a agricole, and JM is an excellent agricole, and typically you would want the light color one. VSOP is a Frenchy thing. It means like very something something, but it tells you how many years old it is, and I don't know that system, but editor Greg does, because he has the whole internet at his fingertips, little fucker. This is Rum Barbancourt White. So this is a pot-stilled cane juice. This is 8-year-old 5-star Rum Barbancourt from Haiti. This is from a coffee still, as far as I know, which is a kind of column still. It's an early column still that is a column still. The best way to describe it is a column still with a lot of pot stills inside of it. The old rums will probably be more mild and less astringent, less attacking of the palate, so we'll preserve our taste buds for the younger rums. So this is the Rum JM VSOP. It is fresh and vegetal, and it smells like fresh cut citrus, but not like, grassy, not fresh cut grass, but like, you know, like chopping wood or something. I don't know. Oh my God. Oh yeah. It is, I hate to use this word, but it is smooth. It hits your palate like nothing, and then reveals itself as this sweet, green nature flavor that evolves. I mean, this tastes so far away from this is to be crazy. There's no baking notes, there's no sugar. This tastes like cut grass, wood, trees, the air on a cool spring day. I can't, you know, describe it. I mean, it's just like a fresh, bright, experiential deliciousness. I mean, okay, moving on to the Barbancourt. It's very different. This has a top of the palate thing. I mean, they're in the same vein. You could definitely see that these guys are cousins. Still that cane syrup, fresh grass, fresh trees, vegetation, walking through the woods kind of flavor. Yeah, mellow, man, just really mellow. Of course, my palate is pretty abused now. Look at all the rum I drank. Okay, on to the Rum JM. The light. Woo! What an odor. I mean, it's so strong. What is that smell? That is a powerful. These two guys. This is like fresh cut grass. This is like limes or something. I mean, not like lime peels, like maybe the smell of like a lime ice from an Italian ice truck that comes through your neighborhood or something. Like maybe that. It's sweet smelling, but in a limey way, in a citrusy way, mellow or something. It's different. I mean, it's crazy because it's the same product, just aged to different degrees, right? Pretzels. I mean, it tastes like fucking hot, warm pretzels. Boardwalk Foods. I know that sounds insane. Butter. Oh man, that's good shit. That's good stuff. It's a kid's show, obviously. Yeah, I get like fried fucking bread. Like fried boardwalky food. I don't know why. Still that green, grassy, vegetal thing in the nose and a little bit in the palate. Butter, but bright, not heavy. That's why I'm getting that fried thing. I mean, like, and yeah, like fried starches, like fried bread, fried potatoes. There's a little French fry pretzelness to it. It's something bread, but fried. I don't know. That's what I'm getting. I have lost my mind. So this is the Barbancourt. Now, I think it's instructive to compare both of these guys on nose. Green, grass, vegetable. More sweetness. There is on the nose a little bit of butterscotch demerara, and that's from the aging. Although these are from a different still. This is not the same product, just aged. They're different products. Now let's compare these guys. Green, grass, fresh. Funky fresh. Like a little bit of that Jamaican funk in there, which is kind of weird, I think, but because like you won't expect that in this style of rum, but maybe that coffee still brings it out. And this is like that buttery, greeny, butter and vegetables kind of thing. Butter and cut grass kind of thing. So back to the Barbancourt. Rising pears. Like funky Jamaican rum, but if the funk was pear-based instead of banana-based. I love this rum. The Barbancourt White I use at home now so much. I love this rum. It has so much character. It's not overly sweet. I don't get a lot of sweetness on it. I get a lot of funk, but different kind of funk than you would get from a Jamaican funk. But I would call it funk. Like I said, pears and fresh grass. You can kind of taste that. It's a different thing. This is, to me, one of the more, this is pretty unique stuff. Okay, that's enough rum tasting. So this was Tasting Rum with Greg. I thought about having a guest on for this one, but boy, that would have taken twice as long because we would have to get their notice, we would have had to argue about it. It would have been a huge thing. I'm gonna eat these crackers. Ah. Tasted 12 rums. It's a show about making cocktails and how to drink them, and I drank a lot of rum today. I suppose that they are forming a kind of cocktail in my stomach now, but so that's what we made. Hold on, we'll shake it. That was unwise.